They ask the American public, well, we got to stand up and speak out and fight, but they're not willing to do that. They're not willing to stand up, speak out, and fight back. Hey, folks, I have one of the biggest patriots in Congress on the show today, and that is Congresswoman Ana Paulina Luna. I met her way before I don't know if she was thinking of running for Congress then, but before she went to Congress, we were both at a Hispanic conference in Arizona. And I thought, wow, what a dynamic, wonderful person she was. And I just knew she would have an amazingly bright future. She's just very smart and knows what she is talking about, knows how I think she represents her constituents in Florida perfectly. And I am so excited for her to now start on this new adventure with the Brave Books family. She is part of our Brave Books family, and you are going to just love her book. The Legend of Naranja is truly legendary. It means the legend of Orange. And I think you all know who Orange Man is. And a big congratulations to Ana Paulina on the birth of her beautiful baby boy last month. And she is she's just gangbusters. She is going straight ahead. I think you all saw her with the Oversight Committee, not only dealing obviously with oversight of what's happening with President Biden and all of the investigations, but also with the UAPs, the UFOs. She led the way on those oversight hearings as well. So you're not going to want to miss this. You're going to want to stay tuned. Stay tuned because we have Ana Paulina. But first, I want to thank Allegiance Gold. Allegiance Gold, gold and silver allow you to protect what you've worked so hard for. And what do I say all the time? Diversify, diversify, diversify. Diversify your assets, right? You need to protect your assets and protect your family. And you can do that with Allegiance Gold. And right now you can get $5,000 of free silver on a qualifying purchase when you tell them that Sara sent you. That's all you got to do. I thank you, Allegiance Gold. Thank you for being there. Thank you for being there for me and for the American people. And for all of you out there who are listening to this, just go ahead, give Allegiance Gold a call. Get $5,000 of free silver on a qualifying purchase when you tell them that I sent you. So don't wait, call or click today. Listen, all you have to do is dial 1-877-702-7272. That's 877-702-7272. Or go to Protect with Sara. That's Sara, no H. Go to protectwithsara.com. We can't control the Biden administration, folks, but we can prepare. 877-702-7272. That's 877-702-SARA, Sara, no H. Or go to protectwithsara.com. So excited to have Congresswoman Ana Paulina Luna here. You represent the 13th district in Florida. You're a member of the House Freedom Caucus, which I have admired since the very beginning. You serve on natural resources and oversight and accountability committees. You are just shaking up Washington. I've always known that you would be tough and you would be fair, but you would be tough and an important role model for Republican women. But now you're a part of the Brave family, which makes you even cooler. And you have this new Brave book, which is like the best title of all Brave books. Sorry to everyone else out there. I know Amazing Club, Awesome Sauce. I loved it. But your title of your book is The Legend of Naranja. And I got to tell you that Congresswoman that's epic. I love it. I love it. Thank you for being on the Sara Carter Show.
Yeah, of course. So for those people wondering, Naranja, if you had an idea of who it might be, it is President Trump. So it started as an inside joke with my husband and I, and we were on our way back. I think it was from Washington. And we kind of started doing like a play on words with this little story. And ultimately it ended up evolving into a book that we thought would be pretty good for kids. And so it's about this orange who competes in a race. And there's a forbidden fruit that's a banana. If you guys want to know if that's Joe Biden. And ultimately he ends up stealing the race, right? He ended up cheating. And so although Naranja doesn't technically win, he has the support of the people. And so it's really, I think, an important lesson, not just for kids to focus on doing the right thing, but also it does have a lot of ties and implications as to what happened in 2020. And I think it explains it in a way that kids can understand. But, the left always likes to come up with nicknames, and, they try to say that Trump was orange man bad, all that stuff. And what I realized is when you take that power away from them and you spin it, you can really, I think, capitalize on sharing that message in a positive way. And so they used to call me a lunatic. So I made a band T-shirt that said Anna Pauline and the Lunatics when I ran for office. And this is my way of flipping it on them.
That. I remember that. And that's what I love about how you take on these challenges and how you take on the left. You turn it into a positive, and you roll with it, because you're like, I'm not going to let this affect me, because that's not true. It's just the leftist radicals target the right in such a way that, it's almost as if they are everything they say we are, but worse, 100%. Right? Right? Yeah. And that's really what it is. And I think that it makes it, and I think President Trump does a great job of that as well, which is why I think he's really going to love this book, The Legend of Naranja, because, and I was going to ask you this. This is important because even Jason Howerton, my good friend, he's on Twitter and he's joking around, but in a serious matter, a lot of people, January 6th, people who just spoke out against the election or said that they believed that there was election fraud or questioned election integrity. There is a big concern now that people are getting, sentenced for speaking out or for participating. And there is a sense that America is not the same America that we lived in, like that there is a tamper on our First Amendment and our free speech, and that people are afraid now of speaking out. Is that something that you're hearing as well?
Most definitely. I think one of the scariest things that I actually have done as a member of House Oversight was actually go to the prison or the jail that these January 6th really individuals are being kept out in Washington. And when you realize in DC, and when you realize that they're not being given a fair trial, and that these judges are essentially keeping their cases there so that they are being basically tried and judged by people that are not on their side, you realize that there is a double standard of justice in this country. And really, it feels like until we get back the executive branch, that there's not much that we can do because of the fact that the actual justice system in Washington is so deeply corrupted. But even going back to what you were saying about free speech and what we're seeing on our end, in the state of Florida, we prided ourselves on having a pretty safe and secure election. But even when Governor DeSantis opened up the Office of Election Integrity, we found people that were being reported for actually engaging in illegal activity in regards to whether it was trying to, push fraudulent ballots or whatever it might have been. People actually ended up getting arrested. They broke the law, and we had one of the more secure elections. So if that's happening in the state of Florida, it's not improbable that it's not happening in other states. And it's just straight up gaslighting Americans to say that every election is 100% secure, because you're going to have people that are being shady. And so I think that to say that it's a conspiracy theory to voice concern, if you're so positive that you have a safe and secure election, then allow for these audits to take place. Don't punish people and silence them for questioning. Do something to restore their confidence. And I think that it is incredibly important, especially with what's happening moving into 2024, to have people that are like Scott Pressler that are getting actively involved at the grassroots level, so that it's that extra accountability and oversight mechanism for these elections. Because we're talking about, control of one of the greatest superpowers the world has ever known. That's the United States of America. So people are going to be shady.
Congresswoman, I agree with you wholeheartedly. And I think that there's something wrong when in a nation, it's a democracy, we're a republic, where you can't talk about election integrity, where it's where if you do talk about it, it's almost as if you're a conspiracy theorist. When we know out there that we've seen people arrested for voter fraud, we've seen it happen across the board, not just in, small amounts in Florida, but we've seen it in Arizona, we've seen it in Wisconsin, we've seen it across the board in Pennsylvania, where there are cases of this. And that kind of concerns me because it says that the establishment would rather placate or just cover up any issues than expose the truth. They say the sunlight is the best disinfectant, then expose the truth to the world. And then we saw what happened with President Trump. And, we don't need to rehash all of that. From 2016 on, we've seen a number of impeachments. Now it looks like Biden is facing an impeachment, which is, and for very real, what Trump faced in the beginning was an absolute disgrace. I mean, it was a fake dossier, people from the DNC paying for it. It was years of the nation being just ripped apart. But we're actually looking on the other side right now, and President Biden, with the money that has come from China, from Ukraine, over 30 million from Chinese companies connected to the CCP. Of course, all the issues with his son and the laptop. These are big issues in Congress. How is the Republican Party handling these issues? Because I know we've got one side of the Republican Party, which is more establishment, and we have another side of the Republican Party, which, Matt Gaetz isn't afraid of just coming up and saying, hey, I'm going to get rid of all the I'm just going to challenge you. And you guys are all doing it too with the Freedom Caucus, holding our Republican lawmakers accountable. What's going on there? I mean, any maybe news that you could give our listeners here on what's happening there?
So I'd say the inside baseball, and this is what I've realized. So I am on House oversight, and we are conducting those investigations. And from what I've gathered, there seems to be this consensus. I don't know if it's burnout or just people not wanting to make waves, but there seems to be this fear of retaliation and retribution politics, right? No one wants to be seen as just doing this because they want, it's a Democrat president. But what I tell people is Joe Biden, whether or not he's a Democrat or Republican, the evidence that we have witnessed being brought forward on House oversight, the Ways and Means Committee bringing forward evidence as well, House Judiciary bringing forward evidence as well. I would say the same thing if this was Republican, because this is public corruption. And what we're finding is that the people that are not wanting to take those difficult votes, quote unquote, meaning they don't want to vote on basically impeaching Joe Biden, it's because they're worried about getting reelected. And some of them are the same people that when I went to censure Adam Schiff after reading, just like I got to page 10 of literally everything that had happened with, uncovering what happened with the whole Russia collusion document, right? And I was just like, there's no way that this guy can get away with this. But those same people, were working against me to prevent us from actually censuring Adam Schiff. And so you're seeing some of those names pop up. And this is what I tell people is that if you are a Republican and if you have any bit of belief in our constitutional republic, you have to do this, because we can't even conduct a fair investigation because of the fact that we're being stonewalled by the FBI, by the IRS, by the DOJ. So this is a step forward in the right direction. Now, is Joe Biden actually going to be impeached? Likely not, because we need the votes from the Senate, right? And the Senate's Democrat controlled right now. And there are even 3 GOP senators that have actively said, which is just surprising to me, but that they don't want to support impeachment. But what it will do is it will put out the information to the American people.
This is what's so stunning to me is that, our lawmakers, and this is not you, and I know who you're talking about, and I'm not going to bring up names right now because I'd like to bring them on the show and get them to answer to me, but maybe they won't do that. Yeah, but we'll see. But they are asking the American public every day, they talk a big game, but they don't believe in what they're actually saying. They ask the American public, well, we got to stand up and speak out and fight, but they're not willing to do that. They're not willing to stand up, speak out and fight back. And it was just the same thing. I remember when I saw Peter Navarro get convicted of contempt, and I was remembering way back, Eric Holder when he was in contempt, and the Republicans did nothing. They didn't push it all the way. They didn't take it all the way with Eric Holder. They wimped out.
Yeah.
And I'm just kind of like, well, you're asking the American public to stand up and to do this and to fight back in a way that's, legit in our system, voting, putting people in office, standing up, speaking out. Supposedly we have First Amendment rights still. In New Mexico, they don't even have Second Amendment, apparently, with the governor there. But they're not willing to do that. And it just feels like it's a game. I think this is the reason why so many young and I would say energetic Republican lawmakers are getting elected. And this is what I hear all the time. Anna, Congresswoman, I hear it all the time when I'm in the mall or if I'm in an airport or if people catch me, around town. It's like they feel like their voice doesn't matter. And I think that's why, when you see President Trump, and we'll go back to the Legend of Naranja, your brave book. Everybody has to pre-order this, by the way. Get it? Because if you get Anna Paulina's book, you will get my book too, which is The Amazing Club, Awesome Sauce, and all the other Brave book family books that are out there every single month. So you go to bravebooks.com or bravebooks.us and they have it anywhere you go. Brave Books, you're going to order them for your children. But I think this is why your book is so important, because we can't give up.
No, we can't.
We're in a race. We're in a race to the bitter end and for our nation. And I know that's something that you very much believe in.
Yeah. And also too, like, I want to go back to the fact that it does seem like, you have so many people that want to run for office, especially young people getting involved. And it's incredibly important, I think, that, you are telling your personal story. So like, my background and my upbringing. But when I got elected, and kind of going back to something that you'd mentioned earlier, the left will accuse us everything that they're guilty of. And when I first got elected, I hadn't even been in office or sworn in for a month. And the Washington Post did this really disgusting, just like sabotage hit piece on me. And I actually had screenshots of the reporter intentionally leaving out information that didn't fit their narrative of what they were trying to paint of me. They were trying to say that I lied about my dad being incarcerated, that I apparently was like not actually Hispanic, that they said that I was a registered Democrat in the state of Washington. Yeah, like crazy stuff. By the end of it, they were forced to do 2 retractions. Then they refused to update the article to show my dad's incarceration record. So it was an absolute hit piece. But the reason why they did that is because here I am running for office. I shattered every single stereotype that they tried to paint as Republicans. I came from a background that typically would not be in the House of Representatives, and I'm conservative. And because I'm a threat, they tried to basically destroy me. And ultimately, what I will always tell people is that it is important that you keep fighting, because when we fought back, ultimately, as a result of that, Time Magazine did a profile piece on us. And there's a big announcement from Time on Wednesday, actually, that I'm not allowed to say yet. But that's going to be coming out soon. But, the ability to impact and influence people, especially people that have felt that they have been ignored by politicians or feel that they don't have a voice, is incredibly important moving forward in these elections. And I think that that's why people are like, well, are you a populist? Yeah, absolutely. And really, that's kind of what this book is about, is it does have a messaging focus on that, but it also too, it targets a demographic that I think that people forget, and that's Hispanic Americans. You have a demographic of people that are conservative, that work hard, that understand the American dream, and that are a lot of times voting Republican now. And so our book's going to kind of, I think, transcend and hit people differently depending on who they are, but we're very excited about it.
I know, I'm very excited about it too. I'm a Hispanic American as well on my mom's side. She came from Cuba. Yeah. I'm a daughter of an immigrant. And I think that we're seeing a shift. I think that, the Hispanic population in America, is shifting. We're business oriented. We believe in, our constitutional rights. A lot of people have fled Marxism, fled countries like Venezuela, Cuba, and other parts of the world. They're coming here for a better life, and they don't want to see that kind of corruption in our system. And I think we've seen that kind of corruption with the Biden administration. So I think you're going to see a lot of people just shifting and moving way over in 2024. I know the Democrats have to be very worried about that. Before I let you go, there's a couple of things I want to welcome your new baby boy to this world. Thank you so much for having this beautiful young child who's changing your life. And I know you were probably up all night with your baby, so I appreciate you being on the show. And that had to have played a role in you writing this book too. I'm guessing.
So Andy and I, we started this project, I want to say, so I found out I was pregnant in December. So yeah, around that time period. But it is kind of neat because we actually didn't correlate the launch for the book with he actually came about a week and a half early. So we didn't coincide it with his birthday, but it is cool because it's something that, one, we're going to be able to read to our son. And then also two, I think it's important for, especially if you are a conservative parent, to introduce ideas to your children when they're younger, but in a way that they can understand. And I just know that because I am in the spotlight for, a number of reasons, politics mainly being it, that, my son's probably going to have to deal with a lot of nonsense. And so being able to kind of explain things to him in a way and get him prepared for dealing with people that might not necessarily be nice because of the fact that I am in office. That's something that this actual book talks about. Naranja doesn't win the race because the banana cheats, but ultimately people respect him for it, and he does the right thing and actually ends up saving Lady Manzana, who's basically the Statue of Liberty, but she's an apple. So it's a fun story, but we are looking forward to meeting her son.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And and just congratulations again, because it's like the best time in your life. And like we said earlier, when we were joking around, it will last forever. You will be a mom forever. And I know you're excited about that. I am also, before I let you go, I want to talk to you about the UFO hearings. Yes. These are very important to me. I have interviewed a number of people, from Luis Elizondo to Nick Pope and others, Jeremy Corbell. I've spoken with him. I know he was at the hearing, and he's done so much great work there. George Knapp as well, from the very beginning. This is a very serious subject that in the past would have been pushed aside as a conspiracy theory or people crazy, tinfoil hat wearing craziness, because that's what the government wanted people to think.
That was their spin.
That was the spin, right? And so many people, so many whistleblowers or people who came forward were harmed by that, were harmed by those lies about them when they were actually telling the truth. Legitimate, military personnel and others who had witnessed something they could not explain in the skies, UAPs, UFOs. You were at this hearing. This is very important to you. I want to play this clip really quick.
In the last couple of years, have you had incidences that have caused you to be in fear for your life for addressing these issues?
Yes, personally.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just want everyone to note that he's coming forward in fear of his life. To put in perspective, if they were really not scared about this information coming out, why would someone be intimidated like that?
I've heard this before. There are a lot of people that are very concerned. There were a lot of classified documents I have that have been declassified from the CIA, from other agencies, about sightings where they've had people sign off and say that they're not supposed to ever speak about it. And then eventually, those become declassified years, maybe like a century later, I feel like. And then people talk about those things. Who do you know who is intimidating him?
So what I will tell you is that, and he shared with myself, Representative Burchett, Representative Moskowitz, and Representative Gates were actually the ones leading out this hearing. And we actually had separately gone to Eglin Air Force Base to investigate some UAP sightings of whistleblowers that had come forward saying that the Air Force was not handling this information and that they weren't actually addressing it correctly. And that's when you saw that we were stonewalled by the Pentagon, by the Department of Defense, which is when you have members of oversight, judiciary, House Armed Services coming to investigate, and you're being told by the military that they can investigate. That's a massive problem, right? Like, is that even a representative government if you're being stonewalled like that? So we brought in, and we actually did get permission via oversight to do this hearing. And a day before the hearing, we actually were able to speak with Gresh on the phone. And yes, he shared with us that he is in fear of his life, that some things had happened within the past year that have caused him to not just take those threats very seriously, but that he does believe that people that he has either worked for and or agencies that want to keep this information private are the ones doing the intimidating. And he also too is married to a woman who was formerly, I believe, in the intelligence agencies. And so when you have people that know how these intelligence agencies operate and they're saying stuff like that, I mean, we take it seriously. The guy is very credible. But what's even more disturbing, Sarah, is that we've been trying to actually get into a skiff to where we can get information from him. A lot of the information he could not divulge because it was still classified. And yet it still seems as though we're being stonewalled with that information. So we're going to continue these investigations, whether or not they're formal hearings in Washington. We will absolutely do field hearings. But like you said, it's incredibly important. We've had Representative Burchett has had other members of Congress come forward to him and say, you know, because of the fact that there was a stigma, like I've never said anything, but I've seen stuff. We've talked to pilots. We've had other people come forward that didn't want to go on record because they were worried about the stigma. And so the fact that it's not the fact that it's bipartisan is incredibly important because that's helping to shield against the stigma that exists because the media just doesn't know how to attack it.
And this is very, very important when you bring up this fact that, I mean, David Grush is saying that basically he has information on biologics, which means that there is some kind of intelligence beyond beyond humanity and Earth, whatever that may be, that we have access to. These would be considered, I would guess, you know, we've seen it before in the Pentagon with the Office of Net Assessment and others. These would be considered like dark operations that are outside the books, you know, things that are being allocated, money that's being allocated outside of the scope, I would imagine, of oversight. That's what becomes so dangerous here,
well,
right?
Yeah,
I mean,
Representative Burchett had actually brought this up because there's been a couple senators, Chuck Schumer, one of them, that was like, we need to put more money towards the Pentagon budget for investigating this. And Burchett's like, absolutely not. It's like the last thing that you need to do if you want to actually expose this, you know, declassify it and stop with the overclassification. Plenty of other governments around the world have done it. I believe Bolivia is one of them. But, you know, even Grush had mentioned that during the nuclear arms treaty with Russia, they actually referenced UAP in an agreement with the United States and Russia, basically, to my understanding, to state that, hey, you know, we'll clear it with each other first if there's anything weird that pops up, to ensure that, you know, we're not launching on one another. But the fact is that this is not just, I mean, first of all, it's incredibly interesting, right? But this is also a massive issue of national security. And then also too, you have this aspect of if something's operating outside of government oversight that the people don't know about, really at what point do you start to say, okay, so do we even really have a representative government, or is it just an illusion if they're able to hide this information from the people and then gaslight and really tell people that it doesn't exist when clearly we know that it does? And I think that there's so much evidence now with technology to where people can record things, whereas before, maybe in the 50s and 60s, it might have been easy to keep it compartmentalized. They can't do it anymore.
Yeah, they absolutely cannot do that anymore. And I think there's so much that we don't understand yet, and so much that we need to understand as far as our humanity and as far as our role in the universe and what that means. And if our governments know something, I believe that the truth is the most important thing. You know, truth is the greatest disinfectant, and shedding light on that will pull that power away from people that we know live to retain power.
Yes.
And that's never really a good thing. That's never really, it never ends up being that good of a thing. So I'm so glad you're on this, Congresswoman. You are awesome. I'm going to let you get back to your baby. I want you to have as much time for yourself as possible. What should we be looking for in the future? Is there any hints? You said Time Magazine. We got to be watching for Wednesday.
Definitely check out the most recent issue of Time Magazine. Again, going back to, and I think that this is just kind of like a good wisdom nugget, is, you know, regardless of who you are, whether it's politically in your career, people are going to hate you regardless, right? So just keep focusing and fighting for what you believe in. But don't let people take negatives and then, use it against you. You can always use something for positive. So in the instance of what happened with the Washington Post, they really just tried to destroy me. And ultimately, when Time investigated, they found out that I was telling the truth. And they did this massive profile piece, and it evolved into something even better. So you guys will see that this Wednesday.
I can't wait. I'm going to be buying Time magazine for the first time in a long time. I'm going to be picking one up. Everybody, I want you to go to bravebooks.us. Go there to bravebooks.us. I want you to get The Legend of Naranja. You got to pre-order it, get that book, get all the other books for your kids. Joining the amazing club, Awesome Sauce, The Legend of Naranja. You can become part of our Freedom Island book club. It's an amazing family of conservative writers with great ideas, and your story is awesome. What a great idea. I love that. And I love the fact that Biden is the banana. I love bananas though, but he's very slippery. So I'm glad
he's the banana. He's the for Biden fruit.
Look at you guys. We got an exclusive peek at the banana, Biden banana. There you go. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Congresswoman.
Thanks,
I really appreciate it.
We'll talk soon.
You got it. I want to thank you for being here with me today. I want to thank Congresswoman Luna for joining us on the show today, and I hope she comes back, and I'm sure she will, to update us on all the investigations. And congratulations again on the birth of your beautiful baby boy. Your life will be filled with joy forever. A child changes everything. If you love today's show and you want even more of the Sara Carter Show, make sure you rate this podcast 5 stars and subscribe on your favorite podcast app. I don't care if it's Apple, Spotify, whatever. Just rate the podcast, download the podcast, give me 5 stars. Follow me on Truth at Sara Carter Official, and on X at Sara Carter DC, and on Instagram at SCarterDC. Also, if you guys haven't checked out the Devin Nunes podcast, go ahead and check out the last one. I was on there. God bless you. God bless our great nation. God bless Anna Paulina's new little baby boy, and God bless the great state of Texas.